What's up, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. Continuing on with the Die Hard franchise, one of the best action franchises ever. We're going to start to get into these next two movies, which are not the strongest, but still, this one's pretty good. Breaking it down with me tonight will be the Shape of the Lone Star State. My man Tex, what's up, brother?
Do I look Puerto Rican to you, Frank?
Yes.
Do I look Puerto Rican? What's up, everybody? No, it's we're so are we going to argue which holiday this movie belongs to, or are we beyond that at this
I think
point
it's
now?
pretty obvious. This is the best Labor Day movie ever.
Oh, okay. Say, I was thinking Arbor Day because I saw treason, but whatever. I'll let it go. No, it's not. What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well and trying to live out here. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, Taron Egerton said this was his famous Christmas movie. So,
well, he's also British, and we beat them in a war, so his opinion doesn't matter anymore. So
we opened a big ass can of whoop ass on him up in Yorktown, didn't we?
Oh, good.
All those funny talking people from across the pond. But
I'm telling you what.
Before we get into the review for tonight, it goes without saying we cannot not discuss the passing of one of the titans of creativity in Hollywood. David
the
Lynch
greatest hair in Hollywood.
Yeah, David Lynch did pass away today from a long bout with emphysema, as I read it. He, of course, was a great filmmaker, musician, visual artist, did some acting. He received critical acclaim for films like, with his surrealist, dreamlike qualities, films like Eraserhead, which is a classic, which me and Tex were just talking about, we should try to review. Elephant Man, which is my personal favorite movie of his, all the way into things like Mulholland Drive and the first film adaptation of the book Dune in 1984, which I still think is one of the most underrated films ever made. Known for a lot of work, including TV. He did the Twin Peaks TV series, which was very short-lived, but much like the Firefly TV series, has this very fervent support amongst its really big fans. He also worked with Steven Spielberg in the Fabelmans TV series, or the Fabelmans movie that he did for Netflix several years back. Also worked on many music videos as well. Did things for Moby, for 9 Inch Nails, did commercials for different places. Definitely one of the titans of creativity in filmmaking in Hollywood over the last 50 years. A terrible loss. Tex, what are some of your thoughts on the career of him and just of David Lynch and just some of his works overall?
There's David Lynch is one of those polarizing figures that I love watching interviews with this guy because he stopped giving a crap about 50 years ago, and he would just tell you exactly what he thought about anything. One of the more famous ones I like was when I forget what movie he was talking for, but somehow it got brought up in the conversation of watching watching movies on your phone, and he spends like 10 minutes going off on how a movie's is not supposed to be watched on a screen this big, and he goes off 10 minutes about it, just ranting about how he got very Spielbergy, with how he does it. But he was very outspoken, very much his own person, very much an artist. Like, there's some people who just make movies, then there's artists, and I would very much put David Lynch in that artist category. We definitely need to look into some of his work because he's got some doozies. Twin Peaks is maybe one of the most trippy, weird shows I've ever seen, but yeah, dude's a legend, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, his work he doesn't have a huge resume. He did like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 films. But I mean,
he didn't do a lot.
Eraserhead, which is one of the best independent films ever made. The Elephant Man, which, like I said, it's my favorite movie of his. It's the writing and directing on that, of which he did both, is phenomenal, and is the movie that gave us Anthony Hopkins as an actor. The original Dune from 1984, again, way ahead of its time. The Twin Peaks movie. He did Mulholland Drive, which is a fantastic film. His last film that he directed was Inland Empire, which I think I've seen bits and pieces of. I never got around to seeing all the way through. But I mean, even that is just, artistically is just beyond what a lot of people can do. It's very, very sad day that we've lost him. I mean, and I'll get into it Sunday. I'll probably do a little bit of a stream Sunday. But I mean, Bob Uecker also passed away today. So it's just like in the last probably 6-8 months, going back in the last year, we've lost some really really huge people, and this is one of the ones that hurts the most. Again, some great filmmaking, because Eraserhead was one of the films that, I mean, it was held up there with all the other midnight movies, like I had a list of them in my head. I can't remember off the top of my head. Where's the one that I had seen up here that I was thinking about? Of all the midnight movies, like damn it, I had a couple in my head and just lost them again. Rocky Horror Picture Show, the first Night of the Living Dead, things like that. I mean, it's like he was one of the guys that kind of helped really kick that genre in the ass and make it kind of its own thing. But yeah, it's definitely a very sad day for entertainment. Like the original Night of the Living Dead, Pink Flamingos, which is a funny movie. I know you won't like that because it's got a guy and dragon it, but
yeah, I know. Well, here's the question now. Like, obviously, you'll talk about Bobby Euclid Sunday. I mean, if you haven't seen Major League, what is wrong with you? You're not living life. The dude's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. So many things this guy's done. He's just a legend. And, it's so many things. But who's going to be the third? Celebrities always go in threes. So.
I don't even think it's threes anymore. I just think like regularly they're dropping off now. It seems like every other week it's somebody else. I mean, just right. Baseball alone, we lost like 3 or 4 huge names in the last 6 months.
Right.
And then, there's a whole generation of great entertainers, great athletes, of people who were popular in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are starting to kick off. So, one of the things I say every time someone passes away is take a minute to go look at this person's work, familiarize yourself with it, and understand why that a generation leaned towards someone like a David Lynch. But what was it about his artistic style, about his vision, his filmmaking, his creativity? What was it that attracted people so fervently to him? To his style of what he does, and enjoy whatever it was about that, because again, this previous generation of creatives, they're not going to be replaced easily, not by anybody by the upcoming generations for sure.
Well, I know for me, like if you look like my collectibles that I have on my shelf, it's not just like, now it's predominantly like horror figures, but the other stuff that I have, it's like I've got like the Wolverine from a couple different Wolverine movies. I've got a Ninja Turtle. Like I've got everything in my life I kind of relate to moments in time through a movie or a TV show or whatever. And I know a lot of people do that as well. It's just, our film and television is the way, it's not our Greek mythology, Zeus and whatever. We have these tales. The guys that are making it are the ones that are going. It's sad to see the artists go, but I mean, we're all doomed to it. So, appreciate them while they're here, and as you said, recognize them for the greatness that they were for even getting to that space. So, appreciate them
for sure. Rest in peace, David Lynch. All kinds of great films of his to go enjoy. Great works of his. If you have a chance, go watch a few of them. Just like, especially Eraserhead, which I haven't seen Eraserhead in a long time. But I remember that movie being
a good one.
Very, very odd. not quite off-putting the way that like A Clockwork Orange is off-putting.
Lynch was an odd dude. I mean, like I said, just go watch. Just go, even if you don't watch one of his movies, just go spend 30 minutes watching some Lynch interviews, and you'll know what I'm talking about, because he's just a real genuine dude. So he's cool.
Yeah, but let's move on now into the review portion of tonight's show, where we will be talking about Die Hard with a Vengeance. That is the 1995 American action thriller film directed by John McTiernan, and written by Jonathan Hensleigh, which is based on the screenplay Simon Says by Hensleigh, and the characters created by Roderick Thorp for his 1979 novel Nothing Lasts Forever. Die Hard with a Vengeance is the third film in the Die Hard series after Die Hard 2. The film stars Bruce Willis as NYPD Lieutenant John McClane and Samuel L. Jackson as McClane's reluctant partner, Zeus Carver. McClane and Carver team up to stop an East German terrorist group headed by Simon, played by Jeremy Irons, who have planted bombs all across New York City and plot to steal the gold bullion of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The film was released on May 19th of 1995 and initially received mixed reviews, but did go on to become the highest-grossing film of the year. It would go on to gross just over $100 million in the United States and Canada, as well as $266 million in other territories, giving it a total worldwide gross of a little over $366 million, making it the highest-grossing film of 1995 against a budget of $90 million. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 60% based on 80 reviews, with an average rating of 6.2 out of 10. The site's critical consensus review reads, quote, Die Hard with a Vengeance gets off to a fast start and benefits from Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson's barbed interplay, but clatters to a bombastic finish in a vain effort to cover for an overall lack of fresh ideas. I don't know. Say what you will. I mean, this was the point in the franchise where they started to stumble just a little bit, but it's still kind of a classic 80s style, early 90s style action flick. I don't know. Tex, give me your initial thoughts on Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, this is the last time we'd see John McClane with hair, because after this, he finally gave up that, that horrible balding pattern that Bruce Willis had going, and he shaved the head. But yeah, this one was definitely within the world of the Die Hard film. It was the characteristics from 1 and 2 that carried into 3. They kind of died here with this one because 4 and 5 they look differently. They're grainy, like the look and feel of the movies is completely different than these first 3. But this one, what this one had going right for it was it tied so much into the first film, that which a good third movie in a trilogy does, because it's kind of the rules. Just ask Randy from Scream. The third one always has to tie to the original. Die Hard followed the math problem, but yeah, this one, I like that the broadness of this. It wasn't just in a building. It wasn't in a plane. It was in New York City. So the scale is much bigger. Jeremy Irons is amazing in this movie. And the dialogue between Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis, Jesus Christ. Just for those scenes alone, it's worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, it does fit in pretty well with the overall tone of the franchise. I mean, it's Bruce Willis doing hero stuff when he doesn't want to be the hero. He plays the reluctant hero better than most anybody in the history of cinema. Right. But yeah, for all the things this movie lacked, it does make up for it for the most part in really cool over the top action sequences. And again, it's got a good bad guy. And let's be honest, while not as good as Hans Gruber from the first movie, while he is outshone by his brother from the first movie. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that in a minute though. I do think that he is a quality bad guy who is not just a rehashing of Hans Gruber from the first movie. He kind of was, but way more ruthless, way more cunning, way more intellectual, as if you could get something like that, as you could get more intellectual than Alan Rickman. He was a good bad guy. He wasn't just a rehash. He was his own separate thing. Intellectually, I mean, because maybe not quite physically, but intellectually, he is all over John McClane this entire movie. John McClane has to win this with a brute force attack because he's outsmarted really at every point in the movie. But a solid ending. You get the whole yippee-ki-yay motherfucker at the end, which is standard for the franchise. You can't not have it. It's one I only knock on the fourth movie is that they kind of fudged that line a little, and I was like, it's a little disappointing, but whatever. You gave me a great movie, so I'm okay with it. But I think there was a lot of things that kind of came back together. I'll talk about it here in a minute about John McTiernan, and a lot of things that came back together that kind of kept this where it was supposed to be for a Die Hard movie.
Well, I'm not going to jump the gun here too much, but I will say one thing just to maybe kind of spark controversy in the comment section. But I think Alan Rickman was not as good as Jeremy Irons as the ultimate Die Hard villain. I think Jeremy Irons beats him. Even though we don't get a physical confrontation between the two of them in the end of this movie, Jeremy Irons, he just, from the second once he enters into this film, he takes it over. And that's really saying something when you've got Sam Jackson, maybe the best curse sayer of all time. This dude could swear and a preacher would applaud because he's so good at it. So he's just tremendous. So I don't know. I think Jeremy Irons drops.
Yeah, the only thing missing in the prequels was Sam Jackson dropping just one motherfucker. It's like, come on, you couldn't have given me that in the prequels. I mean, you could have made it. You could have made Mace say it in a very cool Jedi kind of way. I think it would have worked somehow. But
he should have had them do it to Yoda and have Yoda look at him like, "I will force choke you out of this room. I will kill you."
Go in the chat real quick. Of course, Casey's here saying that I suck, but Tex, you're okay. So obviously he's trying to kiss your ass.
Hey, that's improvement. Normally, I'm the number one target that he goes after, so I'm glad he's moving on to somebody else. That's fine.
Alex Maddox, the Garbage Man, says David Lynch, best line from Blue Velvet. Heineken, fuck that shit. Pass Blue Ribbon. Absolutely.
I do agree with that. Heineken is some hoity-toity stuff. If you want a good All-American PBR, that's a good night right there.
I've never actually been a big fan of Heineken. It's like I drank it a little bit in high school because we were becoming beer snobs. But I've had it in years since, and I'm like, it feels too much like a light beer that doesn't want to be a light beer, that kind of thing. Alex Payne in here, of course, pimping his apparently his friend's book. It's the only reason why I can think of it. He continues to shove this book.
He either owns stock in that, or the writer of that book has naked pictures of him doing something bad and is making him pimp this book. So I don't know which one it is, but it's one of those two.
Yeah. Alex Guardsman says Casey will steal gold bars from the Federal Reserve by hiding them in his bum. Video games are only a test.
Thank God we're not on the gold standard anymore if that's the case, because I ain't touching it. But whatever.
Stuart's here. Stuart, what's going on, brother? I still have these posters here that I need to go. I just went and picked up some envelopes for some stuff that I have to send out. Yours will be in there. I promise they're going to be in the mail soon. I've just had a really busy last week or so. And of course, Casey with whatever. He wants to put his balls on my forehead. Casey, there's not enough ladders in the world to get your fat ass up that high because you're only about 3 feet tall and you weigh about 412 pounds. But maybe next time.
That's some weird fantasy. That's some weird fantasy he's got going on there.
Says a lot about you, Casey. Says a lot about you.
That it does. That it does. Yeah.
But let's get on to the actual review now instead of placating Casey and his attention. Let's talk about John McTiernan, the return of John McTiernan for this movie. Of course, he directed the first film, did not come back for the second film, did come back for this film. Tex, what did you think about the return of John McTiernan for this film and how it impacted the quality of the film that we got?
Oh, I think it was much needed. I mean, he's the dude that came up with the Die Hard formula. I think his presence not being there on the second one is very well shown because it makes that it's not as bad as 5 because 5 is a hot mess, but 2 is very much a forgettable movie within the Die Hard pantheon. Him coming back to this film, it really showed what Die Hard should be. I mean, of course, he directed what I consider the greatest action movie of all time, Predator. He also did Last Action Hero, which is just a fun movie, and one of my good bad movies that I like to pimp out is Rollerball, because that's just a fun 2000s horrible movie to watch. And I always enjoy it. But him coming back for this one, it really felt right. It felt like a proper Die Hard movie should. Just going from watching from 2 to 3, I haven't seen 2 in forever. I wasn't on the 2 review. I wasn't here. But whenever you watch that movie, it's like something is missing. There's just like that final corner piece to that puzzle. And it turns out it's, the director. Who knew, maybe the most important guy on the film set. But yeah, Die Hard 3 is very happy that he came back because he completed it.
Yeah, I think it was good to have him come back because one of the things that was important to do with this movie is not just change the setting not to change the time of year, but to change the setting to another different place. One of the things I think they did good with the second movie is they took it out of LA and put it in an airport at Dulles International Airport. Then you have to have a new setting. So why not go to New York, which is where he is from anyway? So it kind of makes sense that we kind of take it to
John McClane gets his home field advantage back.
We take it to John McClane's home because we spent all these other movies away from where he's from, and time to take it home. So I thought that having it set in New York was a good idea. Adding Samuel L. Jackson to kind of be the not quite buddy cop thing that they weren't trying to make it a buddy cop movie in the first one. I'm glad they kind of didn't. But adding Samuel L. Jackson to have kind of the comedic backdrop to be kind of the for lack of a better term, the color man, if you use the baseball. Don't get mad at me, YouTube. It's a term.
There's some colorful language that I'm pretty sure Frank won't let me say on this review that gets tossed around in this film. But the sign, the signboard scene. I mean, of course, that's the most famous scene from this movie. But Jesus Christ, could you imagine them making that movie today with that scene? Oh my God, it's hilarious. Like it's great. I love that part. Are you trying to get killed?
Are you trying to get killed in here? I should have gotten a copy of that signboard and made a different sign or something out of it. I think I'm gonna have to do that.
Well, see, there's some cuts that have "I hate blank," and then some are edited to say "I hate everyone." So they're getting a little more political about it. Whatever.
Yeah, it was that particular scene was a big ask. I mean, even back in 1995 when this movie came out, I mean, sure, you could have gotten away with it a little more, but still, that's kind of pushing it.
Hey, you know what? Free speech is free speech. There's no such thing as bad words. We need to get back to that kind of society where you can say whatever you want, and that's what I appreciate about it. Whether you appreciate it or you don't, that's more of your purview. But watching that, I mean, I've made no bones about it. I'm not a big diehard guy. But one thing I can say for this film is I appreciate the honesty and the ability to just say whatever you want, and it's up to you to deal with it. We don't get that in movies these days, so it gets points for that.
Yeah, I need to find a good sign, kind of like the one I had for the for Cora with her squirrel moments. I need to find a good one of those signs to make up for you. I got a picture.
Hey, I'm willing. If you've got the balls to put my head on Bruce Willis with the original sign, I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me because you know what? Words don't hurt you, people. We need to remember that lesson. But I would have just loved to have been on set that day to just see what everybody said. Like, oh my God, what is Bruce got on? Like to be a fly on the wall of the set that day would have been tremendous. That would have been great. I would have loved it.
Actually, I'll go to that one here in just a second. Let's get through the cast. But let's talk about the cast now. Again, returning assets, obviously. Bruce Willis is really the only person that comes back from any of the other movies. But they do add in Samuel L. Jackson as well as some other players. What do you think of the cast of the film, and who stuck out to you the most?
Well, Jesus. I mean, you talk about, you never go wrong with adding talent. If you can add Sam Jackson and Jeremy Irons to any movie, it automatically gets better by multiple grades. But it's got to be Jeremy Irons for me. He's such a good villain. Like I said, I think he's better than Alan Rickman in the first one. He's that self-righteous bad guy that he's got the vengeance on his side. If you killed my brother, he just makes no bones about it. Yeah, no F's to give, just goes. And the way, short of not getting, like I said earlier, not getting that final physical confrontation like we had in the first movie, this is so much fun, and I love how Jeremy Irons plays this. Hold it down for me. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I agree. The cast, again, you really only could bring back the Bruce Willis's character because you're moving the setting and everything away from anybody else. So adding someone like Samuel L. Jackson, who was already become a big name at the time, adding in other people, like some of the supporting characters was a big deal. The casting had to be done right. I'll go real quick to let me get back to the chat real quick. Something that Stewart said. He said you agree with Tex about Irons being good, but most underrated villain in this movie was the chick that played Katya. She was just as cold as fuck. Absolutely, she was. It's always great to see a girl be the bad guy who can be so stunningly bad, intimidating, murderous, very, very capable of holding her own in any kind of a fight. A chick bad guy, when it's done right, oh God, it's so good. Because you want to think of I mean, she is hot in the movie, of course, but there's something about a hot chick that can beat you up and kill you and slice you up like she does that one security guard, like dancing and hitting him with that knife and just slicing him up like a piece of sushi was absolutely amazing. But for me, I mean, there really isn't anybody in this cast to stand out other than Bruce Willis and Jeremy Irons. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson does. He plays that good comedic foil. But this really is kind of a movie that is carried by its bad guy, because at this point, we've already kind of seen Bruce Willis do the whole John McClane thing twice. So the character hasn't evolved much past what we've already gotten. So again, this movie, you need a good villain to kind of keep everything going. Jeremy Irons was that villain. Again, fantastic villain. Way far superior in intellect, if nothing else, to the hero, which makes it very, very important. Yeah, I think Jeremy Irons is kind of what makes this movie good. I mean, yeah, the John McClane character, Bruce Willis is good. Everything else is good, but the one who really puts it over the top is Jeremy Irons.
Well, and it's kind of interesting, you know. John McClane is kind of his own guy up until this movie. Yeah, I mean, he had the who was it in the airport tower that was kind of helping him in Die Hard 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
But in this movie, this is kind of the first one where John McClane has the partner. And, you know, of course, knowing what 4 and 5 are, we know they would continue that trend. So this is kind of the first time he's got the buddy, the side, you know, it's almost like a Lethal Weapon kind of feel to it. I mean, it's kind of how they play it, you know, with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover or whatever. But, sorry. But you know, the way that John McClane is in this film, his stick kind of it wears quickly. He's the smart mouth New Yorker cop. How many times can you play that without it getting old? And hell, Sam Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong, but he just did Pulp Fiction when they made this movie, right? Like that was like right after. I believe it was the same time.
I don't know off the top of my head, to be perfectly honest.
I think it was, but I mean, Sam Jackson, he always fills up so much screen time. He's so good, and you know, to have that play off with Jeremy Irons, John McClane's he's not a genius. He's a regular guy cop, at least in this movie. He's not a superhero like he becomes in 4. So he kind of needed the help from Sam Jackson to, you know, counteract Jeremy Irons in this film, I think.
Yeah, but let's talk about the basic plot of the movie now. Oh, well, but no, before we get into that, there is one more part of the cast I want to talk about. One person that kind of disappointed me a little bit was this guy. Even though I thought he was kind of a badass, he's the explosives expert that's helping him. He basically was just like, this is going to be this movie's version of Carl from the first movie. I mean, they talk about in the movie that he's the explosive expert, that he's the love interest of the girl who is so badass. Why do I not have a picture of her for some reason? I don't know why. But and then obviously there's that weird double cross that happens at the end where she shoots him when they're on the boat, as pictured in that scene right there. But I don't understand why he was even there other than to spit a couple of lines out and say, like, he's got like one significant line in the movie which you kind of agree with him because it's logical, where he says you should just kill McClane and stop messing with him. It's like, well, that's the only real line of consequence he has in the movie. Other than that, he's there to fight with McClane one time, whereas in the first film, Carl's basically just like itching for a shot at him. But he's just there to like fight McClane one time, and then for this scene right here, and then he doesn't really matter to the rest of the movie other than the fact that he's the one with all the explosive knowledge. I don't know. Do you think that his character was wasted, or are you okay with the way he was used?
I think it kind of fits the mold of, you know, that era action film. You got to have your cheesy one-liners, and you got to have people to add to the body count. And I think this guy kind of fills both of those roles. I mean, he's not going to make or break the movie, but you kind of need that person to take up space in there. You know what I mean? So I think he's fine for what he was. He didn't do anything extraordinary, but you know, he was fine, I guess.
But let's move on now. Let's see, we've already exhausted most of the things I want to talk about. Let's talk about that really terrible CGI explosion right at the end of the movie. It's like honestly, I never really noticed until I was watching this last night just how CGI this really was. I'm looking at it and I'm like, it doesn't take a trained eye to see that this did not explode in the way it would have exploded in real life. Now a cool explosion. It's fun watching an entire boat explode. That's not a big deal. That's always fun to watch. But God, the CGI was just so obvious. I mean, granted, this was 1995. CGI was not in its infancy, but it was still being worked on. They were still growing into it. You know what I mean?
Hang on. Let's see. What year was Terminator 2?
91, 92.
How good? Okay,
Yeah, me too.
how good was the CGI in that with the T-1000 now? Like
A lot of that was
was
practical, though.
I know, but they still use CGI within that.
Now the CGI for the T2000 or whatever the Liquid Terminator, that was kind of
T-1000.
But even going back and looking at that movie now, the CGI is still kind of obvious. Now you can do stuff like that on yourself.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But
I mean,
when it comes, because one of the things that Cameron has always done with the Terminator movies is he's always tried to do as much practical as possible, especially with the mechanized, like the T100, whatever the Arnold was. So,
I'm trying to think.
The thing is something, but still, I mean, even that has not aged entirely well. If you watch it really closely, especially when you get like 4K or something like that, it really kind of shows through.
Well, hang on, we can't measure any of these movies by 4K ultra, HD Blu-rays, yada yada. I've used the example before, but like Friday the 13th Part 3 3D. That's like if you watch that in 4K, you can see fishing line and everything everywhere. We're not supposed to watch these with the clarity of the microscopes and the lenses that we have now. It's everything's going to look bad by that standard. But I mean, let's see, what year was Jurassic Park? That was 94, right? Was that when that came out?
Yeah, 94 and 95.
Even the CGI in that is still pretty solid. And that was a year before this. So for this movie to, maybe they just had people who didn't know what they were doing with it. Because, I mean, this was literally in the infancy of this kind of stuff becoming.
Well, it also depends on the movie as well. You're talking about doing essentially one shot for a Die Hard movie as opposed to doing hundreds of dinosaurs for a Spielberg movie.
Right. Yeah.
Spielberg's going to get Spielberg's going to get the bigger VFX budget than Tiernan's going to get for Die Hard.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, yeah, they're not going to spend $300 million for a VFX budget for Die Hard 3. That's not going to happen. But it's, if I'm watching a cheesy action movie from the 80s or the 90s, I'm not going to hold it too hard to a standard because you're not watching it for the technical prowess. You know what I'm saying? You're watching it for yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, and blow shit up. So it's kind of what you're here for.
Yeah, how badass was the scene where they go down to the ship, though? Part of me was just like, look, I have used winches on those trucks once or twice in my life to do random things, helping friends do stuff around their property and whatnot. There's not a whole lot of cable on there if you're thinking about it. So even to get down to where that friggin' crane is, that's the highest point of the ship, is kind of a stretch. But I was like, come on. Now, the results are cool as hell. It's a great scene. But at the same time, I'm like, again, you just turn your brain off, stuff your face full of popcorn, enjoy the show.
Well,
but come on.
That's the thing about John McClane, though. He's not Rambo. He's not Mr. Muscle, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's the action hero that gets beat up probably more than any of them. By the end of every Die Hard film, it's like, how are you still alive, dude? Because at this point, he's still just a New York cop. He's not, like I said, once you get into Die Hard 4, he's jumping motorcycles into helicopters and doing everything like he's like Captain America or something. But, he definitely takes his licks and his bumps. So I kind of forgive it, but yeah, it's, you really have to turn your brain off on many things within this Die Hard franchise. I mean, just saying. I mean, hell, go back to the duct tape on the back of the gun. How can you really reach that thing? We had that argument weeks ago at this point. That's one of those things.
What's throwback scene? He had a gun taped to his back underneath that sandwich board in this movie. I was watching it last night. I caught that for the first time in a long time. I was like, "Holy shit! He's got a gun taped to his back again."
Well, wouldn't you? If you were going through Harlem wearing that sign, wouldn't you have a gun on you too? Because I probably would as well.
Probably. I mean, in 1995, I wouldn't have been so pressed to carry my gun anywhere. But nowadays, I mean, I don't go to the grocery store without my 9mm.
Dude, I'm smart enough to know I'm not going to Harlem if you paid me. So I'm fine. I know where I don't belong, and I don't go to this place. So we're good.
But let's get into some trivia now. Not a whole lot more to go into with this movie, but let's get into a little bit of trivia now. Again, the script of this movie was pulled from a book. Well, I'm sorry, it was pulled from another script that had been repurposed multiple times. There's a couple pieces of trivia I have about it. One script, originally titled Troubleshooter, had McClane fighting terrorists on a Caribbean cruise line, but was rejected for being too similar to Under Siege. The Troubleshooter script was later repurposed into Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you know, the whole trope of Die Hard on a fill in the blank kind of fits here. So, you know, there's a reason why that stereotype exists, I guess. So makes sense to me.
I feel like this would have been a better movie than what we got from Speed 2, because Speed 2 was very unmemorable. I mean,
I don't remember anything about that movie, to be honest with you. Like, well, to be fair, the only thing I remember about Speed 1 was, you know, if the bus goes below, was it 50 miles an hour, it explodes or some nonsense? I can't remember exactly. Yeah, and once again, mindless, cheesy action film. You don't have to think too hard with these things. So, whatever.
True. Let's see. The script was ultimately used was intended for a film entitled Simon Says. Originally, it was positioned as a Brandon Lee vehicle, and the character of Zeus was written with an actress in mind. But that project was canceled after Lee's death during the filming of The Crow.
Yeah, kind of hard to make a movie with a guy who's 6 foot under. That checks.
It's so weird, the 6 degrees of separation that leads to what movie gets made and the way the pieces move around the board.
Oh yeah.
I mean, somebody needs to write a book about all the weird, like, order of events that lead up to a movie getting made, whether it's uberly successful or not, because there's so many scripts that get thrown around and repurposed and rewritten and touched up. It's really crazy.
Well, that to me is, I mean, I think that's what attracts a lot of people to wanting to talk about film, because anybody can just go on, Die Hard 3 had a budget of this, made that much, blah, blah, blah. I liked it or I didn't. To me, what's so fascinating about movies is the process, that's why I like to dig into the directors, the producers, and all of the facts behind it. So many people are like that. I'm sure you are as well. So, I find that world very fascinating. Huge business.
Yeah, the business and the process of filmmaking I find fascinating. But Bruce Willis is actually the one who suggested Samuel L. Jackson for the movie. Jackson was thrilled. He said he had seen the first Die Hard movie maybe 30 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, you know what? I just like to have a conversation with Sam Jackson. He's one of those, he's got some hellacious stories that I would love, away from camera, so he's not being, he doesn't have to hold his tongue or whatever. He's got some pretty good doozies to tell. I'm sure
as I recall, Samuel L. Jackson got started kind of late in life.
I couldn't tell you.
Comparatively speaking.
Well, wasn't his first big major role Pulp Fiction?
Let me look at it real quick. He was in let's see, A Soldier Story in 1984. Wait a minute, I'm reading something. Jackson began acting on stage, including several films. A blaxploitation independent film called Together for Days in 1972. After those roles, he moved from Atlanta to New York in 1976. Did more stage work. The Theater, Manhattan Plaza. That's Dutton. In 1988, he had small roles in School Days in 1988, Do the Right Thing in 1989, and also worked for 3 years as a stand-in for Bill Cosby on The Cosby Show.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Let's see. The first thing I remember seeing him in was Coming to America in '88. He was the guy who robs the burger place. So that was his first film role. And then he went on. He did Goodfellas, which I remember from Goodfellas. Let's see.
He was in Goodfellas. Oh, I completely forgot about that.
Then he said, following this role, Jackson became involved with the comedy Strictly Business and dramas Juice and Patriot Games. He was in Patriot Games? I don't remember that. I haven't seen that movie in forever, though. And then, of course, then Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park in 1993 is when Jurassic Park came out, and then the big breakthrough.
Oh, okay, yeah, Jurassic Park. Okay,
blah
I
blah
thought
blah.
Jurassic Park was '94. I was a year off.
Yeah, all the other
Jeremy would have got that right.
Probably would have. All the other stuff: Kiss of Death, Great White Hope, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Time to Kill, which is a great movie, and then on and on and on throughout the rest of his career. So yeah, I said, I feel like he got started kind of late in life. Maybe it's just I didn't notice him until like the 80s, when I feel like he was probably already a lot older.
Oh, I'm sure. But hey, say even for him hitting it a little bit older, look at the career he's had since then. I mean, Jesus Christ, from Jurassic Park to Pulp Fiction to the Avenger movies. Jesus Christ. I mean, how many times did he get to play Nick? They literally redesigned Nick Fury in the Ultimates world in the Marvel, comics to look like Sam Jackson just to try to get him to play him in the movies. So that tells you something.
Let's see. Now on to what Texas talked about already. The sandwich board that Bruce Willis wore while filming in Harlem was actually, obviously, I think, blank, rather than having any text on it to ensure that no one was offended by the message of the "I hate."
Oh, no balls.
The "I hate" phrase was added with CGI in post-production. Some television broadcasts use an alternate version where the sign reads "I hate everybody," which is sometimes erroneously said to be the original version of the sign used for filming, but this too was added with CGI in post-production.
That's hilarious. I wonder how much that cost them in CGI to just put that on the board. I mean, like that. It's obviously filmmaking. You know what I'm saying?
Like, it cost a lot less than what it would have cost them if they'd have put it on the board and filmed with it in Harlem. The lawsuits alone probably would have cost them a lot more. So,
well,
rightly so, maybe rightly so. I mean,
that's so funny to me. Like, it's obviously everybody knows the word that isn't that we can't say on here because Frank will not be on YouTube anymore or whatever. Even though none of us hate anybody, but it's so dumb. It's words, people, and it's a fake movie that's the whole comedic. Like, it's being used in comedic terms. Hell, go back to what was the Tarantino film? Django Unchained. Well, I heard an interview with Sam Jackson years ago talking about with he was talking to Leonardo DiCaprio or whoever. He's like, yeah, just say it. Don't hold back. You're playing a slave master. Like, he was actually like telling him like, no, sell the bit. I feel like Sam Jackson would have been cool with it just based off of what I've seen from it. But you're playing pretend, you're acting. You can't not play that kind of role and not say the word. To me, that comes very, off as very cheap and fake. But whatever.
But understandably, that was not on the sandwich board when they were filming.
No balls.
But they actually used in the film anyway. They used 18 dump trucks to get all the gold from the Federal Reserve.
It was 14.
You would 14 or 18 doesn't matter, because you would actually need somewhere around 480 dump trucks to steal all the gold from the Federal Reserve of New York.
My Lord. Yeah, I believe it. I want to say it was. I watched this last night. It was 14 that they said was missing in the movie. But yeah, what'd you say? 480? What?
It says you would actually need 480 dump trucks to steal all of the gold from the Federal Reserve.
Jesus. So you're like emptying out the entire eastern seaboard of heavy equipment. Oh wow!
I don't know if there are 480 dump trucks in the tri-state New York area.
Six to say, I don't know. What? I mean, there's a lot of mafia-based construction companies in New York. From what I've been told, who knows what kind of equipment they got? I don't know. But that's I mean, it's kind of like that school bus scene from the opening of The Dark Knight. Like, how did Joker? Like, he perfectly times it. They get away in a school bus with bags of money. So I guess using work vehicles is the way to commit crimes in big cities. So we'll have to keep that in mind.
You want to know a really amazing casting possibility that could have happened?
What's that?
Sir Sean Connery was John McTiernan's first choice for the role of Simon Gruber, but he turned down saying that he didn't want to play such a diabolical villain.
Oh, that could have been cool. I mean,
It
as good as Jeremy Irons was, I want to go to that alternate world where Sean Connery played that role. That could have been fun.
I mean, look, we are in the days of AI. I would love to see someone take Sean Connery's face and just kind of like plaster him in a couple of scenes, just so I can visualize, like tangibly visualize. But I mean, the thing that intrigues me most about that is sometimes you play against type and it really works very, very well. Like
Right.
someone who is the good guy being the bad guy. It's like we were talking about Jason Bateman the other night. How he we grew up on the Hogan family, and there's just such a clean cut image of him for decades now. And then he does Ozark, which he's cleaning up money for the cartels, which he's not necessarily the bad guy, but he's not exactly such a clean cut guy. Then
I don't know. You get into those late seasons of Ozarks. Jason Bateman goes full on mafia boss on those scenes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like when you go against type, if it works great. It's awesome. And so I would love to. Now, of course, Sean Connery was in charge of his own career, but I mean, that'd have been awesome to see Sean Connery. I don't think Sean Connery really played a bad guy that wasn't in something kind of fantastical, something like that. I don't think he ever really played a bad guy.
Bond, he did, what was that Alcatraz movie he did, The Rock or whatever?
He's not a bad guy.
No, he's not a bad guy in that. I don't think he ever really played a bad guy. At least he didn't in any big major film. He may have early in his career something I can't remember, don't know about. But once I'll say pre-Bond or post-Bond, I think he was a good guy from then on out.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm trying to let me pull up his filmography real quick.
Trying to think, let's see what.
I have not seen every movie he's ever been in, unfortunately.
Well, of course not. No.
But I mean, yeah, I just the ones that I've seen, I can't think of anything he's ever been the bad guy in.
Can't think of any.
Of Goldfinger. Hell no. And Raleigh was Bond, twice Bond. He did a lot of Bond movies. I thought he only did like 4. I think he did like 5. Let's see. Meteor. No.
I know he's a lot of people's favorite Bond. I'm not a big James Bond guy. I'd say Pierce Brosnan probably. I've seen more of his than anybody else's. But I know he's a lot of people's favorite Bond.
I know. Yeah, I can't think of anything where all of the movies that I've seen and I'm looking at, he's never played a bad guy.
I there's some people that
stuff either, but nothing I can think of.
They just know what they're good at. You know what I mean?
So yeah, but it would have been really cool to see him play against type. I think that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but then again, Jeremy, like I said, there's a reason why we both praise him so much in this review. He's just awesome in it. He oddly enough, I don't know if he's really playing bad or he's just kind of playing snooty British guy. Like he does that very well. I don't know how well you remember his Alfred from Batman v Superman, but he plays that same snooty British guy to Bruce Wayne. It's like that's part of his British charm.
Alfred himself is a snooty British guy. Especially if you know anything about his backstory. He's seen a few things, so
right. Well, depending on which version of Alfred, MI6 or whatever. But yeah, Jeremy Irons, he plays like he kind of has that look of that air about him that he automatically thinks he's superior to you whenever he walks in the room. Hey, it works for a good '90s villain. Why not?
Let's see. The filmmakers actually really did pull a pickup truck off a bridge with a boat for that scene.
Really? Boy, that was a fun day at work.
One of the best scenes in this movie, one of the biggest laughs I've ever given to this movie is this scene right here where that cable hits him as they're coming down, hits that bad guy, that henchman. And he's like, he gets his arms, I get his legs, and then they pull him away like that. The inference, of course, being that this guy has been sliced in half by that cable.
Yeah, I think that's why half the people that end up wanting to make movies just to get cool stuff like that. Because you're telling me that you get to go work at a job where, hey, we're going to blow up cars and drag a truck off of a bridge with a boat. Yeah, I mean, like that's some cool stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's just a fun day to work. So I want to get on that kind of gig. I don't know how I get that job.
That'd be pretty fun. But
Hell yeah.
John McTiernan actually made a pretty good decision. He actually declined to direct Batman Forever, which came out in 1995, in order to direct this film.
Oh, if only he had. Hey, Batman Forever might have actually been a good movie.
Well,
I mean, I know
it depends on what the
I
studio
don't
was going
know.
to let him do. If he wanted to make like a
Well,
good movie, but they wanted those movies to help sell toys and Happy Meals. That's why Tim Burton
yeah,
got it.
they were worried about making how can we sell 15 different versions of Batman action figures more than whatever. So they went to Joel Schumacher instead, and he gave us, which I don't, I understand. I am hardcore Snyder cultist. I've made no bones about it. But how can you be one of these release the Schumacher people? How can you watch Batman Forever or Batman and Robin and want more of that? I've never understood that. I that's not part of my deal. I guess I don't know, but I would have took his version of Batman Forever over what we got with Schumacher.
I would
Too
have
late
taken
now.
any version of Batman Forever over what they ended up giving us those last two Batman movies.
They could have just put Batman '89 back in theaters, and it would have been better than what Batman Forever was. Probably would have made more money, but
Probably. Probably. But let's see. In the scene where I don't have a good picture of it, but in the scene where the stuntmen are running away from their train, they actually weren't really acting. They were running for their lives from this subway car because it was traveling at them at 45 miles per hour.
Holy crap.
Dude,
Yeah, that's
dudes. There needs to be an Oscar for stuntmen.
there does. I can't believe that they haven't gotten any more recognition than they have. I mean, think about all of the action stuff that we would not have gotten if not for these brave people jumping off of things, getting exploded, getting shot at, getting whatever. They're the unsung heroes, man. It's yeah, anybody can come up with a creative story, but somebody has to get chased by a train at 45 miles an hour. That takes a extra set of balls and lack of brain cells. Maybe I don't know what that combination is, but it's a hard day at work.
Yeah, go watch the Fall Guy TV series. Don't watch the movie. The movie's terrible, but go watch the Fall Guy TV series. You'll understand what being a stuntman is like after you've watched. I mean, go watch the movie too. What the hell? The action's good. The story's terrible, but I mean, the TV show's better. But yeah, just stuntmen are the unsung heroes, and of course, go listen to the song.
Oh yeah.
The song's fantastic. Let's see. Back to the potential cost of this gold, the potential value. The total value of 97,000 gold bars that are currently stored in the building in real life. And again, I don't know. This was probably about 2023, I'm guessing, is when this was done. The total value of 97,000 gold bars that are currently stored in the building in real life is about $326.32 billion. That's a bit more than the $40 billion they stole in the movie. Adjusted for inflation, that $140 billion would be worth $290 billion, $647,368,000 as of November of 2023.
Yeah, we need to get in that in the business of getting them gold bars, boy. There's some money to be made there. I'm telling you what.
I know somebody who works in a bank, and he was telling me several years ago. He was just like, he said, "There's a reason why you don't hear about anybody robbing banks anymore." He's like, because
there's no money in it.
There's no money in banks anymore. He said it's not like the 70s, 80s, and 90s when people would go cash their checks every Friday. He's like, cash money still exists, but it's all ones and zeros now. It's in a computer. It's not with direct deposit and cards. A lot of people don't carry as much cash. So he said back in the 70s and 80s, before credit cards, debit cards, and all that, on a Thursday and Friday, he was telling me that even small branches of banks had to keep something like, I forget the exact number he said. I want to say it was something like $50 million in actual cash, because everybody was coming in to cash their paychecks. So they had to have enough not only to cash these checks, but to do the regular daily business, deal with cash from businesses doing stuff in large denominations. He goes, now even busy downtown branches of banks that do the most business, he's like, they only have about anywhere from like 5 to 10 million max in actual cold pack. because he's like, it's all ones and zeros. It's all done in computers now. He's like, that's why nobody robs banks anymore. It's not worth it. He was saying that with all the stuff that you have in place, where if a bank robbery happens, like the average bank robbery only gets something like $2,000 or $3,000. He's just like, that's not life-changing money. And if you get caught, which you're probably going to at some point, you're going to go to prison for 30 years. So that's why I always figured, if you're going to try to rob anything, do what these guys did in this movie. Go after like the golden goose. I mean, like these scores, and make it worth your while, because that's life-changing money where you can buy a new identity. You can do whatever to make sure you stay.
It's much easier today. You just drop some new fake internet coin that, somehow is worth money, because I don't understand crypto. I've tried, and it just does not make sense to me. You're not getting my money.
I own a little bit of Bitcoin, but when I bought into it, it was right before it bottomed out. And I was like, ah, shit.
I mean, hell, apparently all you have to do is, say hot to a spit on that thing, and then you get $1 million from some scam coin. So it's not that hard to rob people these days. So whatever.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, it's like, don't rob banks anymore. I mean, the other thing that got me as I was watching this, it didn't occur to me until I was watching this movie yesterday, but the amount of money it probably took to even undertake this robbery, I'm like, why bother robbing the place if you have that much money available to you? It's like,
right.
I'm willing to bet it took not just a couple million, but maybe
pull the rug on that
thing. But maybe even like hundreds of millions of dollars to even undertake this endeavor of robbing this 126 billion or 140 billion. It's like, I get it. It's like there's an increase of what you spend to what you make, so there's a profit margin there. But if I had that much money rolling around, especially in 1995 dollars, part of me is just like, I can still go live on an island somewhere with my couple $100 million and be just fine. Why do I need to go do this? And then if I really feel like going after the subplot where he's after McClane for killing his brother in the first movie,
let's just say it's the brother thing.
Like, if it's all of that, I could still either hire somebody to do it, or I can just go to New York and have fun with McClane and not have this side stuff that's going to get a lot of attention, like trying to rob this Federal Reserve Bank of all its gold. Part of me is like, if it's going to cost you that much money, just take the money that you're going to spend on this shit and live comfortably, and just put a hit on a McClane. It's like, it's a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient, and you're not going to have.
Well, I mean, look at what the Joker did in The Dark Knight. Oh, I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do. No, dude, you had to plan every step along the way of that movie. Don't? It's like the bad guy says one thing, but they do another. So it's the over. I mean, you also have to remember this movie. This is still in the heyday of overblown action film. With the big, overdone everything. So it checks out for the time. I know why.
Let's see. We talked a little bit earlier about the him having the gun taped to his back. Let's see. McClane has only 2 bullets at his disposal to kill Simon in the finale. In the finale of the film, he also only had 2 bullets in Die Hard to kill Simon's brother Hans in his last remaining associate. That was kind of I don't know if they did that on purpose or by accident, but it was a nice little callback to the first movie.
Well, it had to have been a callback to hey, that's what the third movie in a trilogy does. It calls back to the original in different ways. It's, sequel trilogy rules, whatever. But, I would have thought that was done intentionally. There's no way they accidentally did that.
I mean, and on top of that, the whole gun taped to the back thing. It was a nice little Easter egg.
Hey, we wouldn't have to try real hard to make that the new argument of, is Die Hard not a Christmas movie? Of just get a bunch of gun nerds talking about, okay, if you strap a Glock 45 to the middle of your shoulder blades with two pieces of duct tape, number one, you're already pretty sweaty. I don't know how well it's going to hold to begin with. Just get gun nerds arguing about that, and Die Hard gets a whole new, whole bunch of new attention. So it's not that hard.
I should try that one day as like a vlog.
That's what I'm saying. Get a bunch of gun nerds, much like ourselves, and be like, okay, if you reach back, how far can you go? And it's the whole thing. It's that's a fun conversation worth having.
Might have to try that one of these days, just to see if it works. We could shave Casey's head and then tape a couple of guns to it when they stay there after he sweats from after he gets the meat sweats from a long lunch at Sonic.
Somehow Casey would end up shooting himself if he did that. I know him well enough. He would flub that up bad enough. He would take himself out. So, we're going to have to make sure those are not loaded.
One of his love handles will get into the trigger well and actually pull the trigger and shoot himself in his fat ass.
Well, see, hey, as gelatinous as he is, Casey could be the human equivalent of ballistics jelly. He might survive it without a problem. This may not be an issue at all. It's barely an inconvenience, as you know. Why not?
Just shooting Casey in his belly.
It was super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Oh, that's good. We're going to use Casey as Casey could, hey, you know what? Casey, call your local police department and be like, hey, if you need a human test dummy for, what happens when certain rounds get, expelled into the human flesh, you can hire me because I won't feel it anyway. That could be a whole new career for you. It might be good. So
all it's gonna cost you is a 2-liter of Diet Coke and some Sonic. Some tots from Sonic. Unlimited supply of tots, loaded tots from Sonic.
Hollow point, reverse. It doesn't matter. He'll take them all. So it's all good.
But one more piece of trivia. Bruce Willis himself once stated that out of all 5 Die Hard films, this one was his least favorite. Willis would later go on to dislike the film, stating that it was to be more of a buddy comedy rather than an action movie like the first 2 films. And he didn't like that.
I think this is the second best Die Hard movie. I mean, obviously, I probably won't review 5, just all cards on the table, but I can't wait to do 4. So after 4, I will give you my rating. But yeah, this is my.
I wonder instead of doing 5, we just take a minute to we'll go on that tier maker website. We'll just rank all the movies.
That would be much better than a Die Hard 5 review would consist of, okay, here's the film. It sucks, and we spend an hour crapping upon it. A tier list would probably be more fun.
Sometimes it's fun, though. Sometimes it's fun. We can all universally shit on a movie. It's like if we ever
I like Die Hard.
If we ever decide to review Cats, I'm sure that's what it's going to be like. It's just going to be an hour and a half of a shitting.
You're going to call Cora or somebody else for that nonsense. That could be whenever you.
Yeah, but we can all shit on it. That's what I'm saying. Is we're all going to shit on that movie because it's so bad. So I think maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah, but. I think that goes beyond crapping upon a bad movie. That might be in the world of self-harm, at least for me anyway. I might be skipping that day. But I like Die Hard 3. I'm not a big Die Hard guy. To me, there's obviously the first one's good. This one is better than the first one, and we'll get into 4 at some point. But I think it's better than the first one. That's just me.
Yeah, we'll hit into the chat now, see what some of you guys are saying. Let's see. I'll put text instead of a screenshot of McClane wearing the sandwich board with the I hate everybody display.
Oh, I love it. Hey, he can even, and now this has been some time ago, Alex, but if you remember the clip that you got of the guy getting out of his pickup truck whenever he screams, I hate everybody. Just pull the audio from that and lay it over that. You've got a new entrance little gift there for me. So,
what you got to do is when you get to the part where he says everybody, you just got to beep it out and we'll assume that he's saying what was on the side of the movie.
Hey, I'm down for that too. That makes it even better because then that puts it in, I'm saying whatever you think I'm saying. So really it's on you. So I'm down for that. It's all good.
Yeah, Alex says McClane goes up against intellectually superior antagonists in Die Hard 1 through 4. That's true. He beats them through physical stamina and endurance and being the analog man in the digital world. The fourth one, most certainly.
That's what I was to say,
This one kind of gets there. The first 2, I think it's just brute force. He is the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. He just happens to be the one that wins. In this one, there is definitely a lot of that. Someone who's who's way more tech savvy, but still, I think it's really just 2 really hardcore people hitting one another is kind of where it ends up at. Not literally, but figuratively. And the fourth one, most certainly. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like the fourth movie more than I like everything except maybe the first one. Is you can only send the same kind of villain out there so many times. By acknowledging that he's getting older, sending in that different person with a different skill set. That's one of the things that made that movie a lot funner to me. And I'll go into more depth when we do that next week.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about 4. I'm actually looking forward to that one because that whole video that they put together with Richard Nixon talking over all of the presidential, that whole video alone. That
oh yeah,
right.
And it was really spooky and creepy. That whole
it was
it was the video version of those old ransom notes you used to see like in the 70s and 80s movies.
Oh yeah,
it was a video version of that. I remember thinking that a long time ago when I was watching. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Stuart says, I remember some of the initial comments when 9/11 happened. A lot of people said it was like a Die Hard movie. Oh yeah.
Hey, yeah.
As a matter of fact,
there's a lot of similarities.
One of the things, I don't know why I didn't put it in my notes. This movie actually came out right around the time of the Oklahoma City bombing, and there was some talk if they were going to reshoot the opening sequence because they were like, we don't really want to do a bombing so short while they were still kind of like picking up the pieces from the Oklahoma City thing. But eventually they were just like, you know what, we can't really go back and do it. They'd already gone well past it. They're like, money. By the time the movie comes out, it'll hopefully be far enough in the past where people won't feel so jaded by just seeing it. I think they made the right decision to leave it the way it was. But yeah, it's a hard decision to make when real world things tend to pop up. And we were talking about the phone booth the other day and how that movie was affected by the Beltway sniper stuff that was happening. So,
well, look at what happened with Scream 3. Columbine happened. They completely scrapped the film that they had, rewrite it, and they get which I like Scream 3. I think it's good, but for the most part, it's nowhere near as good as what probably was going to be made, and people crap a lot on it. So they stuck with their guns, and this movie stuck with their guns, and they're better off for it.
Let's see. Stewart's making a movie recommendation. He said he watched a movie on Netflix the other night with Russell Crowe and Karen Gillan and Tommy Flanagan called Sleeping Dogs. It's a mystery thriller. It's pretty good. I'll have to look into that because those are 3 names that I'm impressed by.
Oh, there you go. I've never heard of that. I don't spend a lot of time on Netflix. The last time I turned it on, I went back and I watched the Tyson fight and then a couple other movies, but I don't spend a lot of time on Netflix. I'll check it out.
I love Tommy Flanagan too. He's a great actor.
Yeah. He's good. Yeah.
Alex says 140 billion. Pshaw, 640 million is good enough. Why buy a country when you can lie on a beach earning 20%?
Hey, you know what?
But that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like if you have this much money to even pull off that kind of a job, why do you need to pull that kind of a job off at all? That's like taking $500 million and spending it all on lottery tickets to win the $560 million jackpot. It doesn't really make much sense. You've already got $500 million. It seems silly to me. You've already got that much money.
Well, if you ever want to know it, here's how you'll know I got rich. You'll never hear from me again because I'll be off on an island somewhere with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. That's how I'm going to live out the rest of my days. Because I've got more money than I'll ever need.
There'll be subtle signs. He'll suddenly have a really good computer, and his background's going to be his background is going to actually be AT&T Stadium in Dallas. He's going to buy buy a suite from Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I'll have Jerry Jones bringing me drinks and be like, "You screwed up my football team for the last 30 years. Now go get me a cold one, you moron." Like I'll be doing stuff like that. So, yeah,
I'll ask the Cowboys question here in a minute, but I want to get to this last one. Let's see, movie trivia. The deadly fluid used in Die Hard of the Vengeance was actually fatty acid extraction from a young Casey as raw.
Ooh, from Casey's fat gelatinous acid just seeps out of him, and
Well, in Fight Club, they use the fat they suck out of women during liposuction to render it down to make soap.
Right.
Back
hey,
imagine how much soap we could make with Casey's fat ass.
What was that? What was that one Disney Wall-E where the people just sit in video games and they're the fuel for like the world now? Casey's just on track to become one of those people. That's all he really is. So maybe he's ahead of the curve and we don't realize it. I don't know what's going on.
Or the flip side, maybe Casey's the one that's actually running the Matrix. We just don't know it.
Ooh. Hey, what better cover than the guy that everybody shits on? Like they would never suspect it. The usual suspect.
Why I think I always say Casey's a shithead, but he's our shithead. We love it.
Well, hey,
you can't mess with him. We can. You can.
You mess with Casey, we're coming for your neck. But It's fine. It's all good.
But we're roughly done with the review now. But while I've got you here, Tex, and since we're running a little shorter than we usually do because it's just being you, I want to ask you real quick.
Right.
There's this rumor floating around that Deion Sanders may be finding his way back to the
No,
sideline of
please
the Dallas Cowboys.
do not even speak that evil into existence, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that on me. I don't want Coach Prime as the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, it's cute that, you took your little HB, CU or whatever. Then you go to Colorado and you do. There's nobody in the Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma are gone. Colorado's going to win 9 games or whatever they did. He is not ready to be Dallas Cowboy head coach. Number one, it doesn't matter who Jerry Jones hires, because guess what? Jerry Jones is going to be the head coach of the Cowboys until he's 6 feet under. And even then, he might come back and haunt that stadium to make sure he's getting his plays called. It's not going to matter who the Cowboys get to win. We're not winning another Super Bowl for another 30 years anyway. So, as bad as I don't want Deion Sanders coaching, I could see Jerry pulling that as a stunt. Unfortunately.
It would be such a Jerry Jones move.
Well, it would. Yeah. Jerry's not about – I am perfectly convinced at this point that Jerry's not worried about winning anymore. He's still making money. Dallas is still one of the top 3 most valuable franchises in sports. So as long as he's still making money, he doesn't need to win Super Bowls. He just needs a team just good enough that they might make the playoffs. Maybe they can scam people into going a little bit farther, but it's not going to happen. It's, I'm a Cowboy fan. Yes, I'll die that way, but I'm not a delusion. I'm not going to sit here and think, we're winning the Super Bowl next year, because guess what? For the last 29 seasons, I've heard Jerry say in training camp, we're going to the Super Bowl. And guess what happens? When the playoffs start, 9 times out of 10, we're not even in them. So, yeah, we suck. I'm not oblivious,
Yeah, I hold fast to my opinion that Jerry Jones is becoming this generation's Al Davis, because Al Davis was the one that was holding the Raiders back for the last 15 years to be on the team. And I feel like Jerry Jones is there now. He's not making moves because he wants to improve a team. He's making moves for flash. He's making moves for news and shock value. It's like, I honestly think Deion Sanders is going to coach in the NFL at some point. I think that's kind of what he always wanted to do. I really thought him leaving Jackson State to go to Colorado, I made it kind of obvious. And the fact that he's already talked about, if not actually interviewing for, a couple of positions in the NFL already. I know I've heard people talking about maybe even Chicago would be a good place for him. He could try to maybe help Caleb Williams develop more. But I'm just I think he's going to get there eventually, but you can't just be a coach for 4 or 5 years after being a player, and then all of a sudden you're coaching the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like there's still some coach growth that needs to go on with Deion before he can stand a good chance in the NFL. Now, the one thing that he's got going for him that I can't deny, Jackson State, he upended the culture and completely changed it and had a lot of success. Colorado, in a year, he completely changed the culture, had a lot of success. Maybe it's time for a big culture change in the NFL, and maybe a guy like Deion's the one to do it.
Well, here's the problem with that, though. College has the transfer portal now, where you can take a 1-win team to a 10-win team within a year if you can get the people to go to your school. The NFL's not like that. There's contracts in place. Yeah, you might be able to make a few trades and a couple doodads, whatever, but you can't upend a whole entire NFL team and make a new one in a season like you can in college. And I don't think Deion is that good of a coach. Deion Sanders is a hell of a motivation speaker. Is his son a great quarterback? Yeah, he's awesome. Shadei, or whatever his name is, he's a good college quarterback. Now, how well he does in the pros, we'll find out. But I don't think he's going to coach anywhere that has a quarterback for the future. So I think that because he's going to want his son, because the second Deion says, okay, I'm going to coach, his son's going into the draft, and he's going to take it. Dallas has Dak Prescott. Chicago has Caleb Williams. They just gave him his contract. I don't think he's going to go somewhere where he can't make his boy the quarterback.
That's kind of what I thought, that he was going to try to follow his son somewhere. The problem is all these places where Shadir Sanders can land aren't necessarily looking at him as a coach, or some of them aren't looking for a coach at all. So that's why maybe he just figures, well, maybe maybe he figures to himself, I can go to Dallas because Dak might be on the way out. I feel like Dak's in the back nine now.
We just gave him a new contract that he skill wise, yeah, he sucks. I hate Dak Prescott, but they just gave him he's like the highest paid quarterback ever at this point now. He's not going anywhere. Even if he goes somewhere, the Dallas Cowboys are in salary cap hell for the next 5 years. They're not going to be able to afford anybody. They're not going to do anything. I don't think Deion is going to take just a losing job and he has to go back down to college. That's the only thing.
Yeah, he's got it made at Colorado too. He's buddies with the GM or the athletic director, whoever he is, and he's also in a conference where he can win. Like you said, he can win a lot of games and maybe even squeeze out a national title run. Not saying he'll actually win one, but get into the playoff and make a little bit of noise. He can get into the playoff and make some noise. I mean, if he wins one, maybe two playoff games, that's not a small thing. Maybe not a national title. That's it's reaching right now. But he can make some noise in the playoffs. He can maybe knock off one of the better teams in the first round. But
I don't want Deion Sanders, and I also don't want Kellen Moore to come back to Dallas either. He can stay in Philly. He can stay up there with Philly. We don't want him back down here. You can stay up there. It doesn't matter who Dallas gets. We're not going to win. It's not going to happen. It's as much as I love the Dallas Cowboys, I don't care anymore. I got to be real honest with you. If they're not trying, I'm not going to try. So do better, Senator, as fake Captain America said in that show. So do better, Jerry. Do better. Whatever.
But well, I don't know. I might talk football. Like I said, I'll be doing a couple of lectures over the course of the next few days that are kind of not movie related. So I don't know. We can talk about that. We can talk about that more, I guess, at some point. But we'll go ahead and wrap this stream up there. Again, a little bit of a shorter stream. We're down Jeremy today. He wasn't available for tonight, but he will be back for when we do our stream on Tuesday. But Tex, let me get your final thoughts on Die Hard 3 with a Vengeance.
Yeah, Die Hard 3. I think it's better than Die Hard 1. I enjoyed the movie. It's Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis playing off of one another is always fun to watch. Jeremy Irons makes the movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely go out of your way to. And I just go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's mindless Bruce Willis blowing stuff up and saying yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. How can you not want to see it? I guess I don't know.
Also, I think that line was about 10 seconds late in the movie. I noticed that.
Right,
I feel like they threw it in there just because they wanted him to say it one time, and I was like, you should have. Well,
they have to get it in there for the the trailer moment.
He should have said it as he was pulling the trigger to blow that cable down and have it fall in the helicopter. That's what he should have said it. Instead, he says, "Say hi to your brother for me," and then after they crash and die, he goes, "Yippee!" He just kind of grimaces. He's just kind of like, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!" I'm like, "No, now you made it a tagline. It's not something naturally cool. Now you forced it in there. That was not what I wanted."
Kind of the equivalent of how Michael Keaton is saying, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." In the Flash movie, they just kind of awkwardly did it in the worst time and shape possible. Not well placed on that one.
Not well placed at all, no. But of all the 5 Die Hard movies that have come out, this is number 4 in my book. The first 4 are actually pretty close together. The 5th one, we may not even do the 5th one. I mean, I'll watch it just because I haven't watched it in a long time, but we may not even review that one because it's just not good. It's just, it poorly conceived. It just there was a lot of it that just didn't work for me. But yeah, this is still a pretty solid movie. Again, not the best of the Die Hard films, but it's kind of like I said, the 4 movies are not the best films in the MCU, but they're still pretty good. You know what I mean? They're the bottom of the barrel for the MCU, but they're still better than a lot of other things. And I think that's kind of where this movie fits in. Going to New York was a great thing. I did notice when I was watching it last night, there's that cool picture of the Twin Towers in the background as they're running down one of the streets in New York, which was kind of nostalgic for me. But yeah, it's a fun movie, and you guys should give it a watch. 4th movie, again, I'm really looking forward to doing that one next week. That's low key, maybe my favorite movie. I think I put it right up there with the first one, but that's definitely a great ending point for John McClane's story. We may not even do the 5th one, but you can find these movies all on Hulu right now. If you have a Hulu account, they're free to watch on Hulu. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon, so go watch all of them if you want to. Thanks to my good friend Tex for coming to hang out with me tonight. Where can the folks find you, my friend?
This weekend I will be headed to go see Wolfman from the Blumhouse people, and you know, I don't have high hopes considering the new werewolf looks like a hillbilly meth head, not a wolf man. But I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna, as I always say, support horror. I've seen a lot of horror movies in theaters that I didn't really like, but they still got my money. So go check that out. Like I said, it's werewolf week for me. We're still watching the wolf movies, and go watch some of those. Bloody good times. So go check those out.
I will be going to see Werewolf this weekend myself, either a Saturday or Sunday, probably a Saturday.
Yeah.
But
I got Friday night tickets. Now, I don't know if you have any AMCs near you talking about movie posters with Stewart and whatever, but AMC has this really cool Wolfman poster that they're giving out if you go see the movie there.
The nearest AMC to me is down on the way to Cincinnati. It's about 35 minutes away.
Oh, well, you might check your local theaters. They may have something special, but for anybody watching, if you have an AMC near you, they're giving away Wolfman posters, like mini posters when you go see the movie. So, I don't know if they're doing like a popcorn bucket or anything, but
Alex says hillbilly meth head Wolfman. That sold me. Take my money. Look, if you can have sharks and tornadoes, why not hillbilly meth head Wolfman?
Hey, Alex, because so many movies are financed from Canadian sources. Go talk to your fellow Canadians, get the movie budget, and we will all get together and make meth head hillbilly Wolfman. We can make that movie. We can all brainstorm and get a script.
If they're making
Peter
going. Pan, Neverland Nightmare, and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, there's no reason why we can't do hillbilly meth head Wolfman.
One of us directs. One producer. Jeremy can do the props and stuff for us. He does all the cosplay stuff. Through our collective friendships here, we can put together a trauma level Wolfman movie that like 3 people will watch and be fine. So why not?
Stewart also says that coincidentally, the last time his Aussie Rules team won a championship was the same year the Dallas Cowboys won their last Super Bowl. So you're talking about 1924? Is that what year it was?
Freaking 30 years almost. I was a child when the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, I don't even want to say that because I'm going to get depressed. So I'm not even going to say that. Yeah. Hey, but at least the Texas Rangers are the 2023 World Series champions. So that I can hold on to. That I'm okay with.
It's 2025 now. You can't really hold it over.
I know. Shut up. I don't know what you're talking about, Frank. I don't know what you're talking about.
Equal, I would much rather them had won last year than the Dodgers because I can't stand the fucking Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers with a passion. With a passion. Yeah. You'll see us back here on Tuesday reviewing the which I will be going to see this weekend. I'm sure Gerald will be back for that one. I have high hopes. I think the trailers have been interesting. But again, it's the Wolfman. We've only seen about 30, 40 movies, notably with a Wolfman in it and some variation or another. So what they do to make this different from the others, I'm eager to see. I'm eager to see how that works out. But we are going to be here on Tuesday to review that as well. And then, of course, next Thursday, we're going to do Die Hard 4, Live Free or Die Hard, which is, again, low-key one of my favorite Die Hard movies.
Timothy Olyphant is amazing.
Timothy Olyphant, great bad guy. God, I loved him. This is the movie that made me love Timothy Olyphant. But we will be back here on Tuesday. I want to thank Tex for coming to hang out with me, as always, being so wonderful, bringing his great knowledge about the things that he hates and what he puts on his board. And we will see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Till then, adios.
Go watch Wolfman.
Go watch Wolfman, because we're going to be back here reviewing that one later. Because,
look,
I have high expectations. I think it's going to be kind of awesome.
This is woke-ass Blumhouse. This is a studio that brought us Halloween. I have no hope. So,
there were some good things about the Halloween movies, the newer ones.
Halloween Kills.
Ends not so
Halloween great. Kills was great. The rest of the hot garbage juice, but fuck you, Jamie Lee Curtis.
And then, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, who you can't stand, which is always funny to me. We'll catch you guys later. Adios.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.